people have described him as emotionally unstable. He governs these companies by whim, oftentimes.
Through Tesla's innovation, the company came up with an advanced assisted driving program and later an autopilot feature that drives your car for you. This autonomous feature was promoted by Elon Musk to be a safer way to drive, but the new FX New York Times documentary, Elon Musk's Crash Course, looks at the dangers of this kind of automation.
But it was shocking, and to a degree it's still shocking. How many people still believe that this is a technology that's on the verge of doing what he says it will? The reality is that it won't.
In this video, a new Tesla documentary has launched, and the crew are doing their rounds in the mainstream finance media, sharing their thoughts, opinions, and possibly some fear, uncertainty, and doubt about Tesla, autopilot, safety, and Elon Musk. This gonna be good. So let's get into it. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoy these videos, there's a bunch of ways you can support the channel, access exclusive content and perks. Check out the links in the pinned comment below. If you want to take it to the next level, join thousands of members on Patreon to gain exclusive access to over 100 Q&A videos, loads of exclusive content, exclusive access to my up-to-date 10-year Tesla stock price targets, and even access my Tesla valuation model at the investor support level and above. You can also pick up some Tesla, Elon, and investment themed merch in the merch store, so check out the links in the pinned comment below, and thanks for your support. So before we watch some of the promotional clips and the media appearances from the folks involved in this quote-unquote documentary, it's worthwhile heading over to IMDb to hear what the people of planet Earth think about this documentary. The New York Crimes presents Elon Musk's Crash Course. Currently rated 4.4 out of 10 stars based on 32 reviews. Storyline follows Tesla's autopilot program and how this program has resulted in several deaths that Elon Musk and the company has yet to publicly acknowledge. Explores Musk's efforts to kill government investigations into the incidents. Let's look at the top review here. 1 star out of 10. Hit piece. Standard liberal propaganda hit piece looking to keep us from advancing with future technology in our day-to-day lives. Not worth your time to watch, as it will make you very frustrated. The directing, editing, and the writing are very amateur. This was clearly produced by fossil fuel lobbyists. Now, I didn't write this review, it's the top review here on IMDb, just reading what's there. I wonder if the poster of this review made any reasonable points. Before we get any further into this, let's read from Tesla's 2021 impact report specifically on vehicle safety. This is extremely important context. Most people won't be aware of this. I quote, "Safety is our top design priority. At Tesla, safety features are not optional. Our full suite of safety features comes standard with every vehicle." Let's take a break here. How many automotive manufacturers are you aware of on planet Earth who charge extra money for extra safety features? Spoiler alert, basically all of them. But that's nothing. When we design vehicles, first and foremost, we want them to be safe. Many people are unwilling to accept or acknowledge this, but it's true. Aesthetics, secondary. Performance, secondary. Everything secondary to safety. Always been the case. I'm going to skip through most of this. If you want to pause the video, feel free to read in depth or just download Tesla's impact report. We've learned Tesla recently introduced safety score, and this has dramatically reduced the number of collisions per vehicle for users who are actually aware of their safety score and how to drive more safely, aka improve their score, aka Tesla has gamified driving your vehicle more safely. This is making a meaningful, measurable impact on collision rates. More details about Tesla's active safety features. Let's get to the meat and bones of this, however. Vehicle safety assist ratings. Notice Tesla's Model 3 here in blue versus the rest of the automotive industry. The Euro NCAP safety assist rating from 2019. Tesla's software has improved a lot since then, but this is the latest available data. Model X scored 94%. Model 3 scored 94%. And we can see here visually, Tesla absolutely towering over everything else. So think about this. Tesla claims that safety is first and foremost. We have data showing how much further ahead of everyone else Tesla is in terms of active safety features. We have evidence from Tesla, their own internal data, that since introducing safety score, they've seen a massive reduction in the number of collisions. It's training drivers to drive more safely. And now, the theme of today's video and this so-called documentary, Tesla's autopilot software. Tesla vehicles are engineered for safety, and when autopilot is engaged, safety is enhanced. Now, this isn't just a deluded claim. Tesla has data. Let's continue. In 2021, we recorded 0.22 crashes for every million miles driven in which drivers were using autopilot technology, which includes auto steer and Tesla's suite of active safety features. For drivers who were not using autopilot software, for drivers who were not using autopilot technology, aka no auto steer and no active safety features. We recorded 0.77 crashes for every million miles driven. By comparison, NHTSA's most recent data shows that in the United States, there are 1.81 automobile crashes for every million miles driven. And we're looking here, let me zoom in a little bit. Number of vehicular accidents per million miles driven in 2021. At 0.22 accidents per million miles, we have Tesla vehicles with autopilot engaged, the subject of this documentary. Tesla vehicles without active safety features, approximately 3 times the rate. Now, without getting too far into the weeds here, is this data point at all indicative of the fact that if autopilot is engaged, if active safety features are engaged in a Tesla vehicle, they're demonstrably less likely to be involved in collisions? Pretty hard to argue, but this isn't actually the thing that really matters. This is the thing that really matters. Compared to the total US vehicle fleet, Tesla with autopilot versus rest of fleet, almost a 10x difference. Meaning that at a very high level, if you're in a Tesla vehicle and autopilot is engaged, you're approximately 10 times less likely to be involved in a collision. Now, obviously, there's some caveats there when autopilot is able to be engaged versus not, blah, blah, blah. But the point is here, pretty clear evidence that Tesla's active safety features, including autopilot, actually do enhance driver safety and reduce meaningfully the likelihood of a collision. Tesla has plenty of other safety-related info in the impact report as well. I do recommend, if you've got the time, go through it. And I really do want to implore all Tesla shareholders, please read this. It really matters. Of course, Tesla winning every award ever for vehicle safety here. 5-star, 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 tops. You guys get the point, right? And of course, there's also the subject of vehicle fires. Number of fire events per billion miles traveled, 2012 to 21. Note that an internal combustion engine vehicle is approximately 10 times more likely to, wait for it, per the name, combust than a Tesla. About 10 times more likely, of course. You wouldn't know that looking at the mainstream media, aka the fake news. Now that we've got some important context out of the way, it's time to head over to the documentary makers and see what they have to say about Tesla, autopilot, safety, and of course, Elon Musk. There's definitely no possibility whatsoever that Elon Musk will be painted as cavalier. Tesla's autopilot software is dangerous, unsafe, especially comparatively speaking. Oh, by the way, quick bit of trivia. Approximately how many human beings die every single year in car accidents? More than 1 million. And approximately how many human beings are permanently injured or disabled as a result of motor vehicle accidents per year? About 10 times that number. And approximately how many documentaries have we seen lately about human pilot? The staggering number of annual deaths, permanent disabilities, injuries, suffering, trauma? I don't know, about 0. But that's nothing. Let's move on.
To the controversy surrounding Tesla's autopilot system. Through Tesla's innovation, the company came up with an advanced assisted driving program and later an autopilot feature that drives your car for you. This autonomous feature was promoted by Elon Musk to be a safer way to drive.
So this is the part where I remind everybody we just looked at the data, clearly and unequivocally demonstrating that it is a safer way to drive. Just wanted to put that out there.
But the new FX New York Times documentary, Elon Musk's Crash Course, looks at the dangers of this kind of automation. The film draws on firsthand accounts from people who were a part of creating the technology, those who used it, and details the lives lost.
I didn't hear him mention the documentary drawing upon any of the actual data that's available. I understand it's interesting to hear from people involved in developing the technology and people who also use the technology, but would it seem reasonable and fair to actually cite some data regarding safety of autopilot? Oh no, because that would completely go counter to the narrative attempting to be painted by this disgusting hit piece.
Joining us now is producer and director of the film, Emma Schwartz, and New York Times reporter, Cade Metz. Thank you both for joining us. Emma, we'll start with you. What piqued your interest in creating this particular documentary, and what was the process like?
So, my career is failing, and I really just wanted to create something that would generate a lot of interest and clicks and outrage and, people dying and shit like that. It's very effective. I didn't give any consideration to the fact that I might scare people away from this demonstrably safer, life-saving technology. Instead, I decided ahead of time that this was really dangerous. Elon Musk was dangerous, flippant. Did I mention dangerous? That Tesla doesn't care about safety? And I didn't spend any time thinking about the long-term implications. Instead, I just wanted to generate some controversy, get some clicks, and get a pat on the back for being a good girl.
I think something went wrong there. Let's try again.
Yeah, so, Elon Musk is, one of the most famous, wealthiest, and prominent business entrepreneurs of our time. And we're trying to look and understand what story could we tell about him.
Not being a dick, not being a douche here, but notice already, We've got an admission. Elon's famous, wealthy, blah, blah, blah. In other words, he's a huge target. What story can we tell about him? Notice, this is all about telling a particular story, painting a particular narrative about Elon Musk, rather than maybe accurately representing reality. Just wanted to put that out there.
And one of the things that really caught my attention was there were a lot of these questions going on about the autopilot technology and the efforts to create a self-driving car. Here we have this visionary technology leader, and the government was starting to look into potential safety concerns, and we wanted to dig in further.
Kate, we all in the media have been following, Elon Musk and Tesla through the journey of the company, but you had a focus specifically on this. Was there anything that surprised you throughout your reporting on Tesla's autopilot?
I think what's most surprising is how misunderstood the technology is. For years, people like Musk, people across the industry, but Musk in particular, painted things like autopilot as something that would be able to drive your car anywhere by 2018, by 2019, by 2020. None of that happened, obviously, but it was shocking, and to a degree it's still shocking, how many people still believe that this is a technology that's on the verge of doing what he says it will. The reality is that it won't.
So a couple of things to address here. First of all, Elon Musk's guesstimates in terms of the timing of a fully self-driving vehicle haven't been perfect. Imagine that, trying to predict an unpredictable, revolutionary, in fact, possibly the most meaningful technological disruption and transformation in our lifetimes. Accurately predicting timing on this, a little bit difficult. Who'd have thought? Now, this is always a point of contention. People whose brains function seem to go, oh, okay, fair enough. I mean, best estimate is very optimistic. Obviously, they didn't realize there'd be this problem and that problem, but he's doing his best to estimate exactly when this technology will be available. People whose brains are off, have already pre-decided Elon's evil and so on, decide instead that Elon was intentionally lying, misleading and deceiving the general public. I guess you could say the same about Ray Kurzweil, who predicted self-driving cars, I think, before 2020. Imagine that. Long-range predictions about revolutionary technology. Not always perfect. The question isn't, has Tesla delivered a full self-driving vehicle today already? The question is, are they on the path to doing so? Now, I personally believe the first Tesla robotaxi fairs will take place somewhere on planet Earth in 2024, probably later half of the year. I could totally be wrong. Anyone could be wrong. But I don't think the suggestion that this technology is a decade or more away is reasonable. And again, I just want to stress, imperfect predictions about future events, when you're doing things that have never been done before, aren't deceptive or dishonest. They're simply evidence of how difficult a problem this is, and how many unforeseen obstacles there are along the way. This is something that bothers me a lot. When somebody gives their best prediction about something and the timing's off, their prediction was wrong. They weren't being dishonest. Elon Musk is no Trevor Meltdown Milton. Elon actually says things he believes. Anyway, moving along.
Kate, you've reported on Musk's grand vision for Tesla for years, so give us a sense of Elon Musk the person. We know he's really eccentric, we hear his speeches, but talk about his ambition and how it affected the mission to create this technology.
His mission, and his attitude is extreme, right? He has a vision for not only cars, but rockets, artificial intelligence, interfaces for the human brain and machines. These are all things that are in the distant future, but he talks about them as if they're in the present. And he talks about them with such conviction, you can't help but believe what he's saying. This is a common attitude, a common method, if subconscious in Silicon Valley, but he takes it to extremes. And regardless of what is reported about the realities of his technology, about the realities of his management style, about the realities of his companies, he manages to instill this confidence in at least a certain part of the population, a very, very intense, very, very committed group of people who follow his every word and repeat his every word.
Yeah, and at the very least, you believe he believes what he's telling you. He's good in convincing people that way. He really seems to believe it. This is a good point in the interview to point out that Tesla has repeatedly stood by its autopilot system and has claimed its safety reports show that it is less prone to accidents than normal driving.
I mean, Tesla has the data. It's not really a claim when you're just citing data, right? Now notice, the build-up here, the discussion. So Tesla themselves have claimed that they have evidence that their stuff is safer, but you, on the other hand, rather than citing evidence, you, on the other hand, spoke to some people.
Emma, you follow people who have used Tesla's autopilot and detail the deaths of those who died using it. And the documentary mentions, with regard to Tesla specifically, since autopilot came out a few years ago, several people have died and dozens of crashes have happened using Tesla's self-driving system. So,
pop quiz. How many Tesla vehicles approximately are currently on roads on planet Earth? The answer? Multiple millions. Is it possible that, given the fact that there are literally millions of Tesla vehicles on roads, that some people, sometimes in some of these vehicles, may in fact be involved in collisions and, even worse, occasionally a fatal accident? Yes. Is there any context, any reference in terms of statistical significance? How frequent are Tesla's collisions and fatalities versus other automotive? No, f that. That doesn't help us tell our story about Elon Musk.
I would imagine speaking to those people for a documentary like this is so important to bring a face to what can happen.
Yeah, I mean, we wanted to talk to people who use the technology, who love the technology, who've had questions about the technology, and, also been impacted by the technology. So, part of what we get into the film is looking at, the first known autopilot related fatality in the United States, which killed a man named Joshua Brown. And, his accident was really the first one that sparked a lot of interest from the government and investigators to understand, the limits of the technology and to evaluate, what more could be done to make these sorts of systems safer. You mentioned earlier this question of, the data that Tesla puts out. And, we looked at that as well, and we discussed that in the documentary because, Elon has cited it many times, saying autopilot. I think most recently he's claimed that it's 10 times safer than, a human driver. The challenge with that data is
that it paints a contradictory, in fact, the polar opposite picture to the narrative we're attempting to create and conjure up about Elon Musk, Tesla, and autopilot safety, and therefore, the very next words out of my mouth will be a vague attempt to discredit Tesla's unequivocal data on autopilot safety. Watch.
The challenge with that data is that it's very limited and it's not been vetted by outside sources. And so, from an outside perspective, it's hard to know because we don't have enough data what's really safe. Could it be that some parts of autopilot make things safer? That's possible. But what we have seen is there's certainly been collateral damage where there may be unintended consequences. And there have been recommendations from the government on how to potentially limit those consequences.
So let's talk a little bit more about this. I'm personally unaware of a single preventable accident, and I want to underscore preventable accident, in which Tesla Autopilot was engaged and the driver was paying sufficient attention, as they agreed to do upon using the software. I don't want to make light of accidents and fatalities. They're all tragedies. But the truth is, if you're driving a vehicle, any vehicle, and you are required to be paying attention and ready to take over at all times, and you aren't, something that human beings occasionally do or don't do in this case, hence the astonishing number of fatalities on our roads every single year, your failure to pay attention and to drive safely is not the fault of the software you're using. It's your fault. Tesla makes the limitations, capabilities, and the requirement to pay very close attention and to be ready to take over at all times when using autopilot software very clear to users. Allow me to put a slightly different spin on things to illustrate the absurdity of this line of reasoning, or a lack thereof. Let's just imagine that Tesla was the only company on planet Earth today installing airbags and seatbelts in their vehicles, and everybody else wasn't using them because they don't have to. Play along at home here. I have an earth-shatteringly valid point. Let's just imagine that Tesla had the safety data showing that in the event of a collision, passengers in their vehicles with these crazy airbags and these dangerous seatbelts were, 10 times less likely to be injured or killed in a collision. And now let's imagine that you decide to make a documentary on the dangers of Tesla's airbags and seatbelts, pointing out the few occasions in which they weren't able to prevent an injury or, even worse, a fatality. Imagine instead of citing Tesla's own data, you cite the few counter examples and say, look, the safety of these airbags and seatbelts is in question. Some people have died using the system. We don't need any comparative analysis. We don't need to compare people not using these seatbelts and these airbags, these crazy things, to people that are using them. That's irrelevant. That would create a fair comparison. No, instead, let's just focus on the few cases in which things didn't pan out as they should and attempt our absolute utmost to scare people away from this dangerous life-saving injury, preventing disability, avoiding technology. You guys see what's happening here? It's the exact same shit And now onto one final media appearance discussing this extremely credible documentary.
The things that Elon has said over the years about autonomous cars, are they based in science or science fiction?
Well, let's say science fiction. This is a common thing in Silicon Valley to look towards the future, but act like that future is here. And the entire industry has promised self-driving would be here by now. 2020 was the big date. But Elon Musk has taken this to extremes, right? He promised this in 2018, 2019, 2020. He and his company keep missing those dates, but he keeps making new promises. The reality here is very different. A car that can truly drive by itself and do anything that a human can do on the road, that's still many years away, perhaps a decade or more away.
Yeah, Kate, talking about that, because I think you were able to test drive as well and really test this auto drive system here. What did you find out for yourself? Was there anything while you were doing this that surprised you?
Well, I just think it's important to define our terms here, right? There are two different things we're talking about. Tesla has long had a product called autopilot. It's wrong to call that a self-driving system, right? That's an assisted driving system. It helps you on the highway. Other companies offer this. It keeps in the lane. It does cruise control. It can brake on its own in certain cases. Separately, Elon Musk and Tesla offer what they call full self-driving technology. That's a misnomer. It's also something that's still in beta test. A few thousand people have access to this system.
Over 100,000 last I heard, but this is actually an important distinction. FSD beta, keyword there, beta, unfinished software, not publicly available yet. Surely that's not part of the discussion in this documentary about Tesla's autopilot safety, is it? Since this isn't actually a publicly available feature yet.
And it's designed to do more of this type of thing on city streets, but it's limited. Like autopilot, the driver is required to keep their hands on the wheel at all times, to keep their eyes on the road, to take control of the car as needed. That's very different from, say, what you're even seeing in this video. As I speak, right? There are cases where the car can drive itself, but the driver has to keep alert and has to take control of the car as needed.
Absolutely correct. And this is a critically important thing to understand. I'm glad we actually heard this because it really matters.
He's loath to accept criticism.
False. Completely false. In fact, embarrassingly so. Elon loath to accept criticism? The polar opposite. The man encourages, in fact, demands it from everyone within his businesses and outside. The difference is he's unwilling to accept unjust, unfair criticism. Big distinction.
He believes that his path is the right one, and he doesn't like this sort of thing to get into his way.
It is true that Elon Musk and, in fact, some other people on the planet too, this guy included, aren't big fans of this kind of stuff, aka misleading, dangerous hit pieces getting in the way of the progression, advancement and deployment of this life-saving, injury-preventing and disability-avoiding technology. This is why Elon so aggressively attacks these hit pieces. Lives will be lost. Suffering will be incurred. That's why I'm spending the hours creating this video. Some people just do not have perspective. It's being painted, Elon doesn't want anybody to criticize anything he's ever doing. No, you fucking morons. Elon is trying to prevent many millions of people dying in preventable road accidents. And these kind of fuddy hit pieces will scare certain consumers away from this technology. The end result? Blood on the hands of these spreaders of FUD. This is why Elon Musk hits back so hard at invalid criticism when lives are at stake. It's worth fighting for.
The latest deal when it comes to Elon Musk buying Twitter, all this to say, what did you learn about the corporate culture that Elon Musk fosters from the number of former employees that you spoke with?
He does take a real control over the companies that he runs. One way to think about this is that he wants to fully govern these individual technical projects.
Very true. Great point. Completely agree. Super valid, Owen, by the way. How's that worked out for Elon's company so far? Just saying.
Autopilot is a good example. He, in essence, wants to lead this project, right down to the bits and bytes of how it's built. He may or may not have the expertise in some cases to do that, but that's the way he wants to run these companies. as he's doing that, he can often be, people have described him as emotionally unstable. He governs these companies by whim, oftentimes.
I vehemently disagree with this. Elon isn't governing his companies on a whim, making unexpected surprises and sudden changes of heart, but he is evidence-based. Elon is willing to change course, pursue a new strategy if it makes sense. Suggesting that Elon is emotionally unstable or governs these companies on a whim is just missing the whole fucking point. You really think an emotionally unstable person would have built multiple $100+ billion companies, successfully disrupted multiple industries? I don't. It's almost as if people are attempting to demonize Elon Musk for changing his mind in the face of new evidence, rather than celebrating his willingness to change his mind based on new evidence. Something to think about.
But he really does control the operation of these individual projects in ways that the average tech CEO does not.
Another great, fair, and valid point. I've got to give credit where it's due, despite the fact that this documentary isn't painting a reasonable, accurate, or honest picture about Tesla and the autopilot software. Fair point's a fair point. Hit the nail on the head. After all, Elon Musk is an engineer at heart.
Interesting insights there. What do you learn from his leadership style in terms of, I know you didn't talk to him, how do his employees respond to him, respect him?
It really varies. So some employees really believe what he is telling them and telling the public. When he says that full self-driving will be here within a year, there are true believers inside these companies who really believe that. There are other people who don't believe that in the slightest. They didn't believe it at the time that this was promised years ago. They don't believe it now. Some of them are on camera in this documentary, willing to say that they did not believe these things and don't believe. But again, there are others who really back the man and continue to back the man, even if deep down they know what he's saying in the moment is not true or exaggerated.
I take major issue with this. If you're going to attack somebody's character and paint them as somebody who is dishonest, for example, Elon Musk exaggerating, saying things he doesn't believe to be true, I'm unaware of a single instance in which Elon Musk has publicly made a false claim or intentionally exaggerated anything. Certainly, he, like myself, has an optimism bias, so maybe his timelines aren't perfect, but where, if ever, has Elon ever exaggerated about anything, willingly deceived people and said something he didn't believe to be true? He's got to be one of the most honest guys on the goddamn fucking planet. Do you not remember him literally saying that he believed the price of Tesla stock was too high on more than one occasion? I could cite countless other examples. To imply that Elon exaggerates or misleads or straight up lies to the public is just not right. Where's the evidence? And in case you happen to be suffering from severe brain damage, let's just point out that a prediction about something that cannot be known, a wrong prediction, a failed prediction, is not a lie. It's not an exaggeration. It could be if you give an exaggerated prediction, falsely claim this is what you believe when in fact you don't. But if you're generally making your best attempt to predict something accurately, even if your prediction turns out to be wrong, there's nothing dishonest about that. You were just wrong.
They believe in his larger vision and are willing to work for him and are willing to push towards that vision.
Some more reasonable comments to wrap things up. Again, got to be fair here. Some points that make sense, but overall this documentary, the story that they're telling about Elon Musk, it's fiction. Just saying. So in summary, I'm just a deluded Tesla fanboy / Elon Musk cult member, and so I can't take any valid criticism of Tesla whatsoever. I didn't make this video at all because I'm concerned about these kind of fuddy, fake, dishonest, deceptive, dangerously stupid hit pieces and FUD tsunamis causing real harm in the real world to real people who either see this or worse, just watch a few clips or see a bit of a headline and automatically decide, oh, those Teslas are really dangerous, I'm never going to drive one. Next minute, a small percentage of these people end up in a fatal collision or end up permanently disabled or injured as a direct result of the story the directors and producers decided to tell about Elon Musk and Tesla's autopilot software. Sometimes, especially when you have a tiny brain, it can be difficult, even close to impossible, to imagine the consequences of your actions. And in my unhumble opinion, the consequences of these kind of hit pieces, this so-called documentary, are dire, dangerous, and unacceptable. And speaking of consequences, if you join Patreon with the card in the corner or the link at the pinned comment, some of the consequences of doing so will include accessing over 100 exclusive Q&A videos, up-to-date Tesla stock price targets, and a brand new video which has just dropped entitled Elon Musk has achieved escape velocity, a very important video for Tesla stock investors. So, I'll see you over on Patreon. I'm Stephen Mark Ryan. This is Solving the Money Problem, and I love you all. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoy these videos, there's a bunch of ways you can support the channel, access exclusive content and perks, and get some free stocks and crypto. Check out the links in the pinned comment below. You can also pick up some Tesla, Elon, and investment themed merch in the merch store. If you want to take it to the next level, join thousands of members on Patreon to gain exclusive access to over 100 Q&A videos, loads of exclusive content, exclusive access to my up-to-date 10-year Tesla stock price targets, and even access my Tesla valuation model at the investor support level and above. So check out the links in the pinned comment below, and thanks for your support. And if you're still watching, you're awesome. I read every single comment on this channel and I really appreciate your feedback. So if you've got any thoughts on today's video, questions, comments, or suggestions for a new video, let me know in the comments below. Check the cards on screen now to browse the merch store, join Patreon, or watch the next video.